Okay, so for my mushroom field, I showcased a lot of it already. Um, what it does is just it has the array of mushrooms. It'll create a shroom using the mushroom factory, and then that position in the array won't be null. And that's used by a lot of systems in this game. Um, that's how it manages the mushrooms. Um, the new mushrooms, of course, respond by create shroom, so it just calls the factory. Create shroom in the factory returns a mushroom object, so mushroom pointer, and that allows me to just have it not be null. It'll just set it to an actual pointer to that object. And then whenever a shroom is created, if it's within the top player row and bottom player row, it'll increase the shroom zone count, which is used for the flea to check how many are currently in the zone. Let's see what else I can do here. Maintain array statistics on mushrooms to control critter activities. Yeah, that was basically it. So poisoned is important. The position of the shrooms in the array is important. The amount of shrooms in the field are important. The way that the text is blocking in the attractor mode is actually different. It's not because of the field. I literally just create mushrooms in the field for the attractor mode based on where the text is located. So if I run this, it collides, you saw there, with the 1850. It'll collide with these numbers here. And so it literally just creates shrooms under that text, and then the text is drawn over them. That's the best I could do with the time I had. The game mode, attractor mode, as you saw there, I'll let it run for a bit just to kind of talk over it. So the movement is random here. The blaster won't die. I didn't clamp that right. If it were clamped, it would stay out. Obviously, I had shown that already. So it can destroy the centipede if it's or split it. Sorry, it'll split the centipede. The field is a different field from the one in the first scene. So the attractor scene is a different scene from my level. Attractor scene. Here we go. So it basically sets pretty much everything from the actual level, so spawner, field, managers, etc., etc. It has its own centipede and spider, because if I tried to use the exact same wave manager, which you told me in class that it should have wave manager because theoretically the AI could complete the game, but because of the whole singleton problem and the way that my wave manager is set up with the game manager, it just didn't like that at all, so I had to make some sacrifices there and just manually insert what I want in the attractor mode. So in this case, I just have the spider. Fleas do spawn. I think I showed that in a previous video. Fleas do still spawn in the attractor mode because that's not dependent on the wave manager. So that's all good. I didn't exactly showcase the HUD stuff, so I'll go through here. So all the text is in a string. It gets pushed back to glyph lists, and then those are drawn. Draw score is called once. Yeah, it's not called every frame. It'll be called once. It'll open the high score text file. It'll add all those to an integer list, so it'll convert them using string stream to integers. So it'll convert these. Only up to 8 though. So what it'll do is it'll get them in a list, sort that list, reverse it so that it's greatest to smallest. And then when we iterate through that, we'll convert them to, I believe, am I doing strings here? Strings, which will then be converted to glyphs at the position I specify. And then, of course, shrooms are created at that exact position as well. And then here's if count is equal to display size, then it breaks. So count starts at 0, increases with every display or addition of a score text, so that there's only ever 8 high scores on the attractor mode. So if I manually, add in a bunch more, so 4,000 will be my next highest one, it's 2,300, so we'll see 4,000 at the top. There you go, 4,000, 2,300, the ones that I just added, they're sorted correctly. And then that text file is never cleared. I don't think it should be or would be cleared, especially since I just have it cut off at the amount that it should be drawing on screen. And then the HUD, the regular HUD for the regular game works the same way with less draws, but all it does is get the player manager's active players score. I don't have two-player mode like I mentioned earlier, so the active player is only going to be player 1, which it'll get its score, convert it to glyphs, and draw that. It'll get the top high score, which all that does is opens up the high score text file, and then it gets whatever the highest score is, and it'll use that. And then the get lives, since again I couldn't figure out how to use the glyph system to draw sprite sheets. Well, I did figure it out, it just didn't work because I couldn't get them to remove in that order, left to right. So I just have it as numbers at the top right. So player manager I haven't shown yet. Again, it creates 2 new players, but since I don't have 2-player, it really just uses player 1. All it does is call add score whatever it needs to add a score. My score manager is what calls that, so upon death of something, spider death, flea death, centipede death, etc., it adds the appropriate score. So it calls player manager add score, and again player manager knows the active player, so it'll just call add score on that player. And if we go to player object, it has the current score, wave, lives, etc. Each player starts on wave 0, which is the first wave. And then, just to make sure I have the gameplay loop shown, so I don't forget. I'll stop that there. It'll start the next wave in a bit. I'll also start dying, so you can see on the top right I now have 2 lives. And then if I die, it respawns me after a specified amount of time, so we're on to the scorpion this time, 1 life. And then if I die 1 more time, it'll set me back to the attractor mode. There we go, there's the attractor mode. Again, my clamp is turned off. But yeah, I can do this over and over. In fact, I will, just to show that it loops just fine. One more time, that'll send me back to the attractor mode, etc., etc. Infinite gameplay loop. Same with the waves. Since I don't have a lot of time, I guess you have to trust me on the fact that the wave manager does increase, because I don't let it increase past the max amount of waves that the player can, and that's based on the amount of lines in my wave manager. I don't have too much time. The wave wiping, right? Sorry, regen. So I have a single space regen for the mushrooms. So if I die, these are just destroyed at the bottom will just get regened in a single pass. So that's just a function that resets their health and their sprites. Because I couldn't get the screen wipe. What else? The wave manager, I believe I showed, gets the info from the text file. Nothing insane there. I believe I did show this. Yeah, it converts the data based on that, and then it gets them from the current list of waves based on the current wave that the player is on, and then it sets the parameters based on that. What else? It is 11:40. I believe I've shown everything I have to, and just to make sure I submit on time, I will have to cut it off here. Mode swapper, again, actually I didn't go over this, so just hit space in the attractor mode, it goes to the first scene. And then I can, like I showed, loop between attractor mode and the actual game seamlessly, it doesn't crash. I think that's it. I might have to end the video now. Hopefully I caught everything. The minor things like explosion, whatever, I don't have to go over. Those are kind of self-explanatory based on my other systems. But I showed the observer pattern and the bullet, and basically used everywhere else. All my factories are singletons. My strategy pattern for my sound and my movement. And my managers, some of my managers are singletons. And I think that's about it. So thank you so much for watching. And that's my Centipede final sprint.